Hello, my name is Dominic and I am a man who lives in quite a cold flat, which is why I'm wearing a big warm dressing gown and I don't have any fancy tech equipment. So I'm just going to make a little video about how I feel and how I felt about the first Mortal Kombat, because YouTube seems to be full of people who are younger than me talking about how they feel about it, and that's brilliant, but I was there, man. I was there. I just thought it would be a nice thing for someone who was maybe a bit old to talk about their memories. I'm going to talk a lot about this, the SEGA Game Gear. So I think this console needs a lot more love than it gets. Now, I grew up very rurally, so there weren't any arcades when I was 11 years old, and I saw on television an advert for the first Mortal Kombat. And I cannot emphasize enough how amazing it was for real actors to be used in the game. Compared to Street Fighter, with which I was aware, it looked stunning. And in my opinion, it still looks stunning to this day. So before Mortal Kombat came out, that was my first awareness. I saw this martial arts game on kids' TV, on an advert, on a show that was showing stuff that was coming up, and I was so keen, so keen. The SEGA Game Gear. It was the first console I ever owned. This isn't the actual one. It's a new one that I've got more recently. I don't think you can see the blurry screen very, very well. I remember going to the shop for my first ever console. Everyone at school had one, I didn't. And I was able to choose between the Atari Lynx, which didn't seem to have many games that I was interested in, and it was really expensive. The Game Boy, which is so well remembered today, and the Game Boy was black and white and came with Tetris. And as an 11-year-old lad, I thought Tetris looked so boring, and then the Game Gear was colour and had Sonic, and I'd never seen Sonic before, and the bright colours, I was sold. So I got my Game Gear with Sonic, and not that long afterwards, Mortal Kombat on the Game Gear. It was simultaneously released on SNES, Mega Drive, Game Boy and Game Gear all on the same day. And yeah, I was just absolutely in love. I am a gay man, and Johnny Cage, Daniel Pesina's the actor who played him, he really caught my eye. He really caught my eye. And there was all rumours of, like, you could do special moves and all their clothes came off. The playground was rife with talk of that happening to Sonya and the other characters. And of course, me being an 11-year-old, I believed that was the case. So, yeah, it's interesting how the lore has changed over the years. Like, Goro was a half-human dragon back then. No talk of Shao Kahn yet, no talk of Shao Kahn. And, oh, look at that. I mean, it's very jilted, the animation. And I loved that as a kid. I thought that showed how very, very hard the Game Gear was having to work to make this work. And I thought that was a thing of beauty. You might not know that the reason that Scorpion was given as being yellow in the first game was to mock Sub-Zero. Yellow is the colour of cowardness, and yeah, that was the law back then. People always talk about batteries for this thing, but as a kid, I had the AC adapter, so whenever I travelled somewhere, I just plugged it in. Honestly, hand on heart, never one time did I think, oh, the batteries are right. I never used batteries, and that's all you see if you watch YouTube and see people talk about Game Gear. It drained batteries, it drained batteries. Don't use them, don't use them. I took it with me everywhere, just plugged it in to the wall of wherever I was. So Street Fighter is full of a very varied selection of characters, but they don't all have projectiles. You can only fight up super close, and I loved that Mortal Kombat was full of close fighting, but then every single character had a projectile, and for me that was really different to Street Fighter. That made it better, because in Street Fighter the only character I was any good at was Ryu. And the fact that the projectiles like Scorpion could stun them with his spear, Sub-Zero could freeze them with ice, Liu Kang was crazy fast, Kano's Kano's not in the Game Gear version, but I'd later get the Mega Drive version as well. I'd get a Mega Drive, and of course, both versions are stunning. Kano's was really hard to pull off, but therein lied the challenge. That was a good thing. Game Boy and SNES had no violence. The blood code that you needed to put in, the blood code, it was like a rumour around the playground, and for it to be real, I still get excitement when I put in the different blood codes in here. And you got to play as a god, Raiden. Raiden with his electricity was and is my favourite character. And finally, on the Mega Drive version and the arcade, if you knocked him off the pit, getting to meet Reptile, a hidden character. The joy I had fighting Reptile, absolutely brilliant. The last thing over which I shall speak is the fatalities. And of course, as an 11-year-old, my mum walked in on me being Sub-Zero, ripping off Sonya's head and the spine hanging down, and my mum's reaction, we had to have a talk about that. We had to have a talk. And it's funny now, looking back at the original Mortal Kombat, how tame by comparison it is. But I was there, man. I was there. And there'd never been anything like it of which I was aware. The level of intensity was and is so captivating. So now I'm 45 and I still collect for the Game Gear. I love it. I love going around collecting, and I still honestly, genuinely play, as well as the more recent Mortal Kombats on PS5. I still go back and play Mortal Kombat 1 and very much Mortal Kombat 2 on the Game Gear. I think they've got a real charm and rhythm and look which is of its time and to be treasured. You don't quite get the same thing playing them on emulator. You need the chunky brick-sized Game Gear to really get the true nostalgia. So that's all I've got to say about this. Thank you so much for watching the video. I don't know how many people will watch a 45-year-old talk about Mortal Kombat, but as I say, I was there, man. And I just wanted to share perspectives of how it felt to be there at the birth of what is one of my favourite video game franchises. Thank you for watching. Take care.